Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Thanks for flying with us. Have a great day.
Happy birthday to you, Eastown Church. I am Pastor Sam Purley from Hugh Church, and we are celebrating this birthday with you. I want you to know that because of your existence, lives have been transformed for eternity. And not just our generation, the younger generation, the next generation, they are being impacted for eternity. I commend you for investing in the expansion of God's kingdom, supporting church plants both here in the Bay Area and beyond. I want to encourage you with a verse from the Bible, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 58. Therefore, my dear brothers and sisters, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. May God bless you. Have a happy birthday.
Happy 5th anniversary, Eastown. Woo! It has been so incredible to see how God has moved in this community, with this community over the last 5 years. I mean, Eastown has fundamentally altered people's perspectives of their responsibility to share and embody the love of Jesus wherever they are, whether that's at home, at work, in their neighborhood. And that's changing people's lives. It is very clear to me that God is going to continue showing up in powerful ways through this community, and that you'll increasingly see evidence of that in the individual and collective lives of the humans who are connected to Eastown. I love you guys, and I can't wait for the next 5.
Hey Eastown, this is Nick from the Stratum Foundation. I want to wish you guys a happy 5th birthday. I love the way that Eastown has been a creative innovator in the community, thinking of creative ways to get the word out about a church and thinking about creative ways to serve your neighbors. And I also love about your church that you have been a champion, not just of your own church, but of other churches in the Bay Area. I think of the ways you've encouraged churches like Storyline or New City Church, both in Oakland, and many other churches. And I just hope and pray that the next 5 years are even better and even more fruitful than the amazing 5 years you've had. Happy birthday.
Greetings, Eastown. My name is Nancy Orper, and I'm with Transforming the Bay with Christ. I'm actually sitting in somebody's office up in Concord because my job takes me all around the Bay Area. And I just have to tell you that the first time I met the Dupins, I got so excited for San Ramon. They are two of the most effective leaders with humble hearts and great spirits. And I have preached at your church once, and I've gotten to meet a lot of you, and I would say many of you share those same characteristics. So keep going for the gospel in San Ramon. We need you, and we are delighted that you are turning 5. Happy birthday.
Hello, Eastown, and congratulations. It's been 5 years, and you guys are doing great, and I'm so happy to be a small part of that. My name is Greg. I'm on the management team, and wish I could be with you this weekend, but I know you're having a blast, and you're having good tacos, and I'm sure good coffee. For those of you who don't know me, I've known Clint and Michael for a long time and have just loved to see what God has done through them and through all of you to serve your community and to have people's lives transformed. What a blast. Only 5 years so far. There's a lot more ahead. And so my love to you, my congratulations to you. Have a wonderful celebration.
Eastown Church. Hi, family. I just wanted to thank you so much for all you've done. Happy birthday, 5 years. So grateful for you. You know, you've been putting up with Pastor Clint for a long time. And I just want to say congratulations. You've made it a mighty, mighty long way. But you know, everything is possible with Jesus. No, just kidding. But love you, Clint. Love you, Michael, Hillary, just the whole team. You have been like family to me. To Love Never Fails. You've walked with us in our walkathons. You've sponsored us. You've called me at times where I didn't know how we were going to make it to the next moment. Financially, emotionally, spiritually, you've been there with us. And so thank you. We love you. We appreciate you. And happy birthday.
Eastown Church, congratulations on 5 years. I'm so proud of you. You are a creative church, a generous church. You love God, you love people, but I know it's just the beginning. In fact, we have this in common together, that our churches work together to see this region transformed with the love of God, and there's so much more ahead. My prayer for you is Psalm 34:5 that says, those who look to God for help will be radiant with joy. And I pray you will experience such radiancy, such joy, that what happens in you will continue to multiply and impact this entire region. And it's only the beginning, and I can't wait to see what God does through you. God bless you guys.
Hey Eastown, this is Ruben Miracle from Kenya. I can't believe that it's been 5 years since you got started. Congratulations on your 5th anniversary. I just wanted to let you know that you are exactly where God wants you to be, as your love for God and His people continues to touch lives, families, and your community in the Bay Area. Your local philosophy is something that resonates with my heart, and even your love is reaching out globally to support us with bringing the gospel to our people and also clean water to needy communities. Thank you for your love, and thank you for being our friends. Congratulations on your big day.
Hey everybody at Eastown, I want to say happy 5th anniversary, and I want to thank you for your inspiration and your encouragement to me over these last 5 years. Clint and Michael and your kids, to all of your leaders and serving teams, the people that have been a part of Eastown throughout these 5 years, you have shown the tangible love of Jesus Christ to people there and around the world. I was thinking, I got this little painting that my dad did of a place in Kenya near where the Pokot lived, and I thought, your influence and your love is extended all around the world. And my big regret over the last few years is I haven't been able to get out and see you. I hope to be coming soon with Paula. And just to let you know that your life there together, your community together, is a great encouragement to me and to many, many people. So happy anniversary.
Welcome to Eastown Church. We're so thankful to have you here with us today. We're continuing on our series, but first, we're going to celebrate, right? My name is Clint Dupin.
My name is Michael Dupin, and it is a big day. We're glad you're here with us.
That's right. And you probably saw some people on there wishing Eastown community happy 5 years, happy anniversary. Those people have been kind of like outside encouragers, people behind the scenes. A couple of our Love Local partners, I think about, one is on our board, right? It's like, and then another one, I think about Nick. Nick is a guy that is a part of an organization called Stratum, which is a organization here in the Bay Area that helps fund and resource new church plants. So we're so thankful for each and every one of those people.
Yeah, I think about Nancy Ortberg on there too, who leads Transforming the Bay with Christ, TBC. And when we were taking trips out here before we ever lived here or knew that we would land in San Ramon, I think about how instrumental she was, just preparing us for all that it would entail and what it would look like to start a church here in the Bay Area.
So this is kind of cool. We're really celebrating, don't you think?
We are. I do feel like we missed it a little bit. Like we should have had confetti or balloons.
Or did we miss it? Look.
Yeah,
isn't that amazing?
Might be a little cheesy.
Oh man, that was good. Anyways, hey, let's talk a little bit, right? It's like, I think about all the things that we have experienced over this 5 years. By the way, it's like, it feels like 10 years, maybe 20 years, but you look back, it's gone like that.
Yeah,
really.
It's gone really fast.
But
Although I look at our kids, I look at people's kids that helped us start, and it's when you look at the kids and you see how much they've grown up that you're like, wow, this is
Henry's shaving.
Well, yeah, he is. Okay. If you know who Henry is.
He's our son.
But we've had some incredible moments. Like I would say, I think back so often of the people that we didn't even know when we first hit the ground here 6 years ago, and the people that were a part of our original launch team before Eastown even started on a Sunday morning, that like they really were brave to meet us, to find out what we were doing. I think about the Downings were the first couple, the only couple that we knew when we moved out here. And then the Barnharts were the first people to bring us dinner. Cashers were some of our first neighbors we met. Like the Eatons just showed up in a backyard. We'd never met them before. You just think about the way people were connected and how I look at so many people, some of which I just named, and I'm like, I can't imagine our lives, I can't imagine Eastown without them. You know?
Yeah, I think that too. And I love how you started. I mean, it is all about people. It's all about people's stories. You know, I think about Matt Filipkowski, who was so key in launching Eastown. And one of the things that we are so committed to at Eastown is like, it doesn't matter where you are, you know, on your spiritual journey, whether you believe in God or you believe in Jesus or not, you're just kind of, maybe you first connect to the community, and that's what means so much to you. And that was Matt's story. And it was crazy to me, is like Matt would always be the first one to arrive, the last one leave, the first one to volunteer. But getting to know Matt a little bit, he just had a bad taste in his mouth to church, for Christians. And but there was something a little bit different with the community that he was connecting with at Eastown. And I still remember, like, I think about why Eastown exists is to connect people to Jesus Christ, to put their faith in him, to trust him. And I remember our first Easter in 2018, I gave people an opportunity to put their faith and their trust in Jesus. And I still remember looking all the way back. Matt was probably doing 14 things at the time, but he listened that morning. And obviously Jesus had been working in his heart for over a year. And I remember him raising his hand and accepting Jesus. And we've seen that time and time and time again here at Eastown. So I don't know. There's so many just people that I want to thank. We just don't have the time to do it. But I'm so thankful for this Eastown community.
Yeah.
So,
well, I would say, in addition to all the great stories, like I think about here, you see that our first meeting in the backyard before we even moved here was with 7 people, you know, and all of them but 2, we were just meeting, I think, for the first time that night. Maybe we'd had a little bit of connection before. And then you go to kind of our core launch group that you'll see on the screen. And it's like, they were so instrumental. They were so committed to going to where people were and learning our community and loving our community and never thinking it was about people coming to our thing. And so we got to be a part of incredible community events. And so I just am so thankful for those people. But you look back on all the individual stories that we could talk about today, the individual people that have shaped Eastown. And I would say that in addition to all of this, we also acknowledge there were really hard moments over the past 5 years. There have been really hard moments in the life of Eastown. We've all faced hard moments in our personal lives, and for sure, really hard moments in our country and in our world. I've had repeated conversations reminding people that can't understand why their emotions, their bodies, their people in their life are responding the way that they are, that we've never had a time in our lifetime like this, a time of shutdown and isolation, a time of so much uncertainty, a time of sickness like this, or fear of sickness, or fear of who you might pass the sickness to. But no different than any other hard time in our lives, I would say we've seen that our natural tendency for most of us is to want to escape or avoid those hard moments. But standing where we are today, looking at the last 5 years, it's like we could have never imagined the way these difficult times would shape or reshape us. And I would say both us as individuals and as an Eastown community.
yeah, I think that's so important. What you just said there at the end is like, never ever did we move out here and leave Detroit, move to the Bay Area and think, hey, here we are. You're welcome. It's like, I just feel like the people of this community, what God has shown us has more impacted me, right? And it's been pretty amazing. We realized our commitment to love local, to love others like Jesus, where we live, work, and play, was more important than ever. And I think as people were becoming more and more divided, as people were leaving the church, deconstructing their faith, and looking at images being displayed of Christians around our country and wondering how in the world to reconcile all of this with who Jesus is. As we could no longer gather together, how we loved right where we live became so critical, right? It's like we talk about loving local. You talk about putting it into practice was 2020, 2021. We also came to a great awareness of the places that the church had been complicit when it came to racism, racial inequity, and we had to enter in and ask those of you with us to enter into a season of listening, lamenting, learning, and repentance. And we didn't do it always right, did we? It was like there was things that we said or things that we decided, maybe it wasn't the right timing of it. but we did the best we could with what we had in those seasons. But along this journey, we realized that the value of justice had to be a part of who we were, and that this needed to be threaded all throughout Eastown in both learning, teaching, and action. And we acknowledge that not everyone has agreed along the way. People have been hurt along the way, but we want to continue to seek God's heart for the rivers of justice.
As we've been reshaped in this season, we also know more than ever that it's only by the transforming power of Jesus deep within our souls that our mental health can experience healing, that relationships can be restored, and that the brokenness in our world can experience more and more of God's original design. Overall, I would say this: God revealed that we needed to be a church that was willing to turn towards the hard things in our lives, the hard things in our world, instead of turning away.
No, that's so good. It's like, I think one thing, we just spent a little time on justice, is like, at the heart, this is what I've always told people, at the heart of Jesus is justice. Really, it's like wherever Jesus is going, he's bringing peace, he's bringing love, he's bringing justice, he's bringing hope. And that's what we want to be here at Eastown. Now, if you've been joining us in this series, you know that we're in a series called 2 Degree Shift, right? And in our lives, that makes a huge impact over time. And if you think about a 2 degree shift, like when we enter in the new year, we want a 180 degree, right? And oftentimes it's like we give up because it's too big of a change. But what if we looked at it different, right? What if we looked at it at a 2 degree shift? Because over time, right? And you can even see on the graphic of our series, is like over time, at first it doesn't seem like anything is changing, but over time things are actually changing. And it can change the trajectory of our lives and allow us to experience transformation through Jesus. So today, as we talk about a 2 degree shift in our healing, both individually and in our world, the shift is to turn towards the hard things.
And if you are in person at Eastown today for our anniversary, you would be receiving the 5-year anniversary t-shirt. And in this year,
which is always fun.
It is.
Yeah.
And this year it's a little bit different. Still has our Eastown 3 lines on it, but it actually has a buffalo right in the middle. And I want to say this: if you are watching live with us online between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. on Sunday the 22nd, we also want you to receive a t-shirt. And so here's what you're going to do real simply, because we're going to tell you in just a second why the buffalo is on the shirt. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to text the word buffalo to 94000. And when you do that, you'll get a quick link back to you. You can just fill out the form, tell us your t-shirt size, and we will make sure that you get one in the mail. But that's for those of you that are watching live between 10 and 11 a.m. on the 22nd. So Clint, you brought this story home and I want you to talk about it. Talk about the buffalo.
It's a true story. But first, as a kid, did you ever think whatever you were doing in that moment, you're probably the only one in the world doing it at that moment? Or was that just me?
You process that a lot. So go ahead.
So I bet you right now, people who are texting buffalo to 94000, nobody else in the world is texting buffalo to 94000.
Wow. Well, there might be more than one doing it right now.
It's
so
only that group. That group.
I don't know where you're going. Just tell us the buffalo story. Okay.
A couple of years ago, my friend was telling me this story about the difference between cows and buffalo. And here's the truth. The truth is that all of us have storms in our lives. And we always say we are entering a storm, we're in a storm, or we're leaving a storm. Very rarely is it just smooth sailing. What's important is how we respond when those storms actually come to our lives. And there was a study that was done on the Kansas plain between cows and buffalo. You can actually look this up. Almost always storms brew from the west, right? And kind of roll out to the east.
I don't know if I knew that. That might make me sound dumb.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that out loud. Make sure you don't put it on the video.
I think I already did.
Yeah.
Shh, don't tell me.
Well, cows sense the storm. They can see it brewing, right? And they turn and they actually walk away from the storm. Now, we all know how fast cows are, right? Cows aren't known for their graceful running or their sprinting, right? So eventually the storm catches up to them. So cows are basically walking with the storm, expanding their time and their pain and their frustration in that storm. Now that sounds really, really dumb to do. But isn't it crazy that we as humans do the exact same thing? We spend so much of our time trying to avoid the storms in our lives, right? Trying to circumvent those storms, sometimes caused by the choices we have made, right? Sometimes by the choices of others, and sometimes as just a part of the world we live in. However, you know what the buffalo does? The buffalo is very unique. They sense the storm, they see the storm, and they don't turn away, they turn towards the storm and they charge at it. I still get goosebumps talking about this. This actually minimizes the pain, the time, and the frustration. They get to the other side quicker when they get to that light and the calm on the other side sooner. Now, we all have storms that we are going through, whether they're mental, they're health storms, they're financial storms, they're marital, they're relational. I don't know what type of storm that you have gone through or that you're trying to avoid even right now. We think we ease the pain or find more peace by avoiding, by finding ways of escape, by not fighting it or facing it, by just giving in and existing in it. The lie is that we believe that this escape or avoidance is what will actually give us relief. When Jesus is continually beckoning us to hold his hand, that's what's key, is to hold his hand, not go alone, to hold his hand and enter the storm. To see that when we turn towards it and enter it is when we find him at work in our lives, in the depth of our souls, in the places that matter the most. This is when we have the opportunity to get to the light, the calm, and the peace on the other side of the storm. Not because of my own power, not because of some self-help book, because of Jesus, the life he gave for us, and the healing and the wholeness only he can provide. Now, there's a beautiful demonstration of this in Mark chapter 5, and we'll start with verse 24. And I want to just give you a little bit of a context. Maybe you've never heard this story, or maybe you're familiar with this story, but Michael's pulled out some great insights of this scripture that I think are very valid when it comes to entering this storm and when it comes to turning towards the storm, that 2-degree shift. This woman has been bleeding for over 12 years. She has visited doctor after doctor. Now think about the storms in her life. It said she had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she actually grew worse. So don't we feel that way in some of the hardest places in our lives? It seems that no matter how hard we try, it actually only gets worse. I think of just even sitting down with a friend this week. It's like, man, I'm trying, I'm doing this. My life just continues to get worse.
Yeah. I just think you look at this woman, we're going to get into her story a little bit more, but in her time, because she was bleeding, she was ceremonial unclean. That's what she was considered. If we go back to the Old Testament in Leviticus 15, it actually tells us what happens when a woman is bleeding, when she goes through her menstrual cycle. It says she will be considered ceremonial unclean for 7 days. If you touch her, if someone would touch her, they then would be considered ceremonial unclean. Anything she sits on or touches has to be burned because it's unclean. Now, she's not just dealing with this for 7 days. She's been dealing with this for 12 years. For 12 years, she's been to doctor after doctor after doctor. Like I think about my friend this week who I was talking with, and in this last year, with what has happened with her health, she has been sitting in waiting room after waiting room after waiting room, wondering and questioning. Well, she's been doing this for 12 years. She's been in this storm alone, frightened, despised, poor. Like she's given everything she has, longing to be healed, and no one has touched her. She has had no contact or physical love to know how she's cared for. She could have given up. She could have just settled to think like, this is my life. I'm just going to exist and walk along in this storm, or use like all of her emotional energy to just try to fight what was happening or what her circumstances were, to be so unhappy in this, just deciding this is what her life would be. Don't we do this? Like we spend sometimes So much energy trying to avoid or escape or figure out other ways, or we just actually think that this is as good as it gets. We might not even realize we make that decision. Maybe we've tried a little in the hard areas, but it's easier to just push it down, to suppress it, to avoid it. But we see this woman, she keeps pushing for healing. I would love you to go back, because we're not reading the whole scripture today. I would love you to go back and read it later. But as you read her story, if you don't know it already, I wonder what she thought when she heard the way Jesus was healing people. Because the word was getting around and people were trying to be wherever Jesus was. I wonder, as she heard the stories and the whispers, if she was afraid to even hope. I wonder how many people today would say, I feel that way. I feel afraid to hope that things could actually change for the better in this area of my life. I wonder if she just got this feeling inside, though, that she couldn't even help, if her heart began to race, if she had this flutter in her stomach, believing that this just might be what she had been waiting for years and years and years. And here's what we see. We see that she chooses hope. She decides to go where Jesus is. And as you read in the story, you see that she enters this place where Jesus is and she sees him. But do you know what she sees? She might not even actually be able to see him because he's surrounded. Like the crowds are gathered. People are pushing up against him. And she had to question, how in the world would she ever get to him? Or not even that, like with all the people there, how would she be the one that God would even choose to pay attention to or to heal among all of these people? Do we think that way sometimes? That maybe with all that's going on in the world, with everything that people are facing, why would God choose to enter into my pain? I wonder how close she was to giving up, to turning around and just deciding to go home. Like the believing that she was never getting the attention of Jesus. But that's not what we see in the story. She decides to push through. I just want you to picture it, because I can imagine people pushing up against her. You know, when you try to move through a crowd and you're trying to figure out where the openings are?
I did it at a U2 concert before, and like a mosh pit.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. But just think about where you've been in big crowds and you're trying to push through and you want to get somewhere. I imagine that, like I said, people were pushing up against her. She would move forward a little bit closer to him, and then the crowd would push her back, or other people were moving in front of her. But she finally gets close enough to just touch the edge of his robe. Like she could just barely reach out and touch him, not even get his attention. And it says, immediately her bleeding stopped and she was freed from her suffering. And then the picture becomes even more beautiful. Like if that's not beautiful enough, that after 12 years, she can immediately feel that her bleeding has stopped, that her body is healed. It says Jesus hadn't even seen her yet, but he felt the power go out from him. And you know what he does? He stops. With the crowds all around, many pushing up against him, touching and grabbing at him, he senses her and he asks, "Who touched me?" And he didn't even see her at that point. And it says he kept looking for her. He's pursuing her. He wants to see her. He wants to look her in the face and acknowledge the pain, but acknowledge her faith. He turns to her, communicating in this beautiful moment and this one turn how much he values her. And he says, "Your faith has healed you." Like, I just want you to stop there for a minute and just know, like the same way that Jesus turned to see her and kept looking for her and pursuing her because he valued her and he loved her and he wanted her to be free from her pain, he feels the same for you. Because she had faith in him to keep pushing through the crowd, because she had faith even after years of disappointment, he wanted to look her in the eyes and say, "Your faith has healed you." So here's a few questions I would pose to you today. It's like, where have you lost faith over time? Where have you given up and decided that this is as good as it gets? Where have you decided in the hard places of your life, instead of turning towards, that you're just going to turn away?
You know, as you were talking about that, I was just thinking about this woman. She was at rock bottom. Like, I'm sure, like, I'm going to do anything at this point. It's like, I think what we've seen in people's lives over this past 5 years, just here in the Bay Area, it's almost like Eastown, I love this, is a last resort for some people. That it's almost like, I've tried everything. And I think there's so many of us that have been, and you know people, and maybe you still are that person. I've been that person where it's like, yeah, I believe in Jesus, but you know, I'm still going to pursue the things of this world. And you haven't hit that rock bottom yet. You haven't hit that place where it's like, I don't know where else to turn. I don't know where else to turn. Because even after this, as we share this, like, I know that some of us just get up and we move on. We all do. That's just our human nature, sinful nature. But this is an invitation. Like, we have to place ourselves in this story. We are the woman. We're the woman. And maybe for some of you, your place in the story is someone in the crowd that's just trying to see Jesus, and you know, because of the spectacle that he is, not because he can actually change your life and give you life eternal. But I want to go through this. We don't turn towards hard things because of our own strength, but because of the healing power of Jesus. Because we have faith like the bleeding woman, that Jesus can heal, that Jesus can save us, restore us, and bring wholeness to our lives. Jesus is concerned about our mental, our emotional, our spiritual, our physical, our relational, our well-being. He wants us to experience shalom, right? Few words in the Old Testament are as rich as the Hebrew word shalom. And in fact, it is in vain often, right, that we try to capture its full meaning and what God designed for us. Now, here are a few thoughts by some of our favorite authors, right? Shalom is a Hebrew word that means universal flourishing, wholeness, and delight. It's a state of affairs that inspires a joyful wonder in its creator, right? Or maybe this is a better one for you. The true essence of shalom is wholeness. Shalom is about experiencing the creation intent of God. Life as God intended it to be. It's the life before sin and brokenness entered the picture. That's by Jim Branch. Maybe here's one. Shalom gathers all aspects of wholeness that result from God's will being completed in us. It's a work of God that, when complete, releases streams of living water in us and pulsates with eternal life. This is one of my favorite authors, Eugene Peterson. The truth is this: we all long for shalom, but there has been vandalism, hasn't there, of shalom.
So if you go back to the story of the woman, after Jesus finds her, he just healed her. He says to her, "Go in peace." This phrase was a traditional Jewish formula of leaving, the peace meaning shalom, where you go and you take shalom with you. Jesus not only healed her physically, but she now could experience shalom, his wholeness in her life. So today, as individuals and as a church community, we want to turn towards the shalom that Jesus offers and longs for us to experience. So here are 3 areas that we're asking each of us to consider. And they're just like the areas that we talked about in the beginning, that we've been formed and reshaped in as a church over the last 5 years. So if you're watching with us and if you're in a place you can do this, I'm going to ask you to grab a piece of paper. Go grab a pen and a pencil and a piece of paper, because we're going to ask you to just listen to these 3 key areas as we talk about the healing that God wants to bring in your life. And we're going to ask you to have some space at the end to commit to one area and say, in this area, I am going to turn towards the hard things so that I can experience the healing and transformation that Jesus has designed for me. So the first is my interior life. In a world where outward appearance, success, our possessions, our status, whatever it is, they matter so much, it can be so easy to miss that our interior lives are at the core of everything we do. Deep in our souls is where Jesus wants to live, bringing his healing here first. Because I would say as we watch the decay of mental health and we see the hopelessness and loneliness that we all at some time exist in, as we look at the brokenness around us that we long to see made right, we have to be willing to turn towards our interior world first. The trauma we've experienced, the ways we've learned to cope, the walls that we've built in our lives to keep others out, the pain that is trapped inside, or even the bitterness that might be living deep within that is years old. And I would say this is not easy. I feel like we've been on a journey the last year to really dive into the interior places of our individual lives and how that affects our marriage and our family. But the healing, the light that we will experience on the other side of that because of Jesus, it's just waiting for you and me. Why don't you talk about the second area?
Yeah, I think the second thing we would talk about is my relationships. We are made for community. We talked about this last week. It's not our original design to face life on our own or on our own strengths. If you missed last week, I would encourage you to go back and listen to that one. Our culture has become so comfortable with judging and pointing out people's faults, right? The ugliness of others. But sadly, this is rampant in the church as well. As followers of Jesus, we are to be reconciled to Jesus first, and his power brings reconciliation in the brokenness between us as well. What relationship is Jesus asking you to turn towards, even with all the complications and pain in it that it holds, in order to experience his healing? Where have you given up too quickly, written off too easily, and placed all the fault inaccurately? I think our world longs to see a different way in how we love one another and longs to see relationships that can actually be restored. I think about even talking about Martin Luther King last week and talking about Jesus all the time is how he actually loved his enemies. Not just said it, but actually demonstrated it. Now, keep on going, sorry.
No, I was just going to do the last one.
Okay.
The last one, so we talk about my interior life, my relationships, and the last area we're going to ask you to consider is the world around me. Not one of us, if we were asked today, would have a hard time describing the broken places in our world, the ways we know deep in our souls that things are not as they should be. But it can be all too easy to try to come up with a reason why things are that way, or decide whose fault it is, or even to just determine the problem is too big. It goes too deep to change. Or we let it even determine our belief in God. If God were good, then how would this be what is true in our world? But we are created to be the solution to the broken places of our world. We talk about that often at Eastown. John 14:12 in the New Testament actually says this. It says, "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing." This is Jesus talking as he's been walking this earth and healing people and just seeing people and sitting in relationship with people. He says, "Whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these because I am going to the Father." As his children, we've been given the power through Jesus to be a part of the solution, to bring healing by the way we turn towards the brokenness instead of away from it, by the way we enter in, by the way we let our hearts be broken, by the way we rearrange our lives to allow space to tangibly sacrifice and love for the good of all, no matter our differences.
You know, when you say that, I think of all the stories, but one story in particular about turning towards healing, turning towards pain is my friend Johnny, our friend Johnny. And our desire from day one here at Eastown was to resemble, like I said earlier, kind of like a hospital, right? Well, maybe a hospital with really good coffee. Okay, so anyways, we want to see people, not judge them for their faults and their mistakes, but deal with the results that those mistakes and hurts and pain have caused. Now, I can still remember my new friend Johnny, my friend now, but when he was brand new, the first day he walked in to the doors of Eastown in 2018. he was able to share a little bit of his story and what was kind of going on in his life at that time. But I want you to check out Johnny's story right now.
I grew up here in San Ramon with the most loving and supporting family you could ask for. I was a sports nerd ever since I could remember. I was a baseball player, a basketball player, which eventually led to me becoming a coach. As a little kid, I was always playing in the backyard, playing baseball or basketball. Sports was who I was. That's what people knew me as and related me to, and knew what I loved. When I was in middle school, I became real serious, particularly about baseball. I would go out in the backyard and hit on the tee every day, and almost becoming a dream of mine to become a pro athlete. Reality probably changed in high school when I wasn't as successful as I imagined. When my sports identity started to end, I didn't have another identity, and drugs got introduced into my life and slowly started to fill that role, that hole that was missing. I got introduced to meth when I started working an early morning shift. I was having trouble staying awake, and I had someone introduce me to it, and it all started there. Started using early mornings, and it would last me all day long, and I would do that for a few years until it started to not be enough, and I would use in the afternoon, use at night, and be up for days using. Relationships in my life started to break. I lost a lot of friends. I had a lot of people start to question me. I would not go out with people. I would do my own thing and hide from the rest of the world. My rock bottom was when I was so skinny I couldn't eat. I couldn't physically do the things I was used to do as an athlete. I couldn't hold the same conversations with people. I almost overdosed on Valentine's Day 2019, and that's when I decided I needed help. I went to rehab 2 different times, and both times were not successful. I entered a rehab program that where I met some very important people, including Michael Hamilton. Without Michael Hamilton, I would not be alive today. Michael never judged me. He was always there to support me and always was there to make sure I was there to move forward. He introduced me to Jesus by allowing me to go through a life recovery Bible with him. It was the 12 steps through a Bible. We would meet three times a week and pray. He taught me how to pray. And when he taught me just to ask questions about how I want to feel, what addictions I want taken away, and not expect them to be taken away right away, but to just to have real conversations with Jesus was when I started to really believe. I've been hungry to learn about Jesus, and every day I learned something new. I went through a program called Alpha where I learned that some of the simple questions are real questions. Questions that I was scared to ask or admit that I didn't know were questions that got brought up in Alpha that had multiple different answers from different people. I've decided to get baptized because it's an outward symbol of an inward commitment. My faith means everything to me. It means to me that my mistakes from the past do not define me, and it allows me to move forward with my life in a positive manner.
I don't know about you, but that's pretty amazing. I love Johnny. He's now on our team. He's actually on our staff. I think about the first time I met Johnny, watching the transition in his life and just the struggle, but at the same time going, I know that God is real and I'm going to put my faith and trust in him. And he would sit here and tell you that he doesn't have everything figured out, right? And I just think about what we're doing right now in person is we have the opportunity to baptize Johnny. And it's going to be so much fun to do that. And I'll tell you what, like baptism is something that we do and we practice as believers, as followers of Jesus Christ. And why do we do it? Because Jesus did it and Jesus asked us to do it. It's a command. It doesn't make us right, Christians. It doesn't make us Christ followers, baptism, but it tells people that, hey, I've made, this symbol is representing an inside commitment that I've made to Jesus, that I'm no longer, right, pursuing the things of this world, even though I might stumble and mess up, but I'm doing all I can to believe and put my trust and faith in Jesus Christ. And maybe that's you today. Maybe you are sitting there and going, I need to make that decision in my own life. The first decision that you make is to put your faith and your trust in Jesus Christ. That you say, hey, you know what? I've been kind of just kicking the tires of this thing. Today might be your day. You might be like Johnny. You just kept pursuing, you just kind of trying to figure out this life, and it just kept coming up short. If you actually go to our Eastown app, you've never downloaded, go to your apps, look for Eastown Church, and on there is a little picture there, a little icon. Just push following Jesus. And it'll tell you, we give you simple steps on how to follow Jesus, but also there's a little form on there that you can fill out, that you can say, hey, I want to know what it means to follow Jesus, or I want to make a decision today to follow Jesus. Maybe today is your day that you say, I want to be baptized. You can go on that same app. You can push baptism. You can sign up for baptism. We could even call you, answer questions, whatever you need. There's another way that you can connect with us. Just simply email us at info@eastown.church. I want to close with this scripture. Isaiah 43. Isaiah was a prophet in the Old Testament, and he's talking to the nation of Israel. He's talking to us. He's talking to the community, right? And he says, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. One of the things I always tell Johnny is like, you are not defined by your mistakes, Johnny. Don't dwell on the past. We're moving forward. And he says, see, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? It's like sometimes, like I even like with people like Johnny, or people like have given their life to Christ or put their faith, they don't know if they're moving forward or not. It's usually it takes from somebody else to remind them. It's like, hey, you should see the change. You should see how you're handling relationships, handling your finances, handling different decisions in your life. There is a new thing that is happening in your life. He says, I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. The wild animals honor me, the jackals and the owls, because I provide the water in the wilderness. Animals get it, right? He's saying animals get it in the water, the wilderness and streams in the wasteland, to give drink to my people, my chosen. As oftentimes people search for meaning, search to quench their thirst in different ways that are just broken cisterns that come up empty. And then he says, the people I've formed for myself, that they may proclaim my praise. We celebrate this past 5 years, but we're even more excited about the next 5 years. And one of the ways that we're able to do what we're able to do is because of your generosity. And something I said for the last few weeks, I wanted to reveal to you and share with you our Make It Count year-end giving initiative, actually what came in. Our goal, kind of like an internal goal, is like, man, if we could raise $100,000, that would be amazing, to continue to fuel our general budget, to fuel our love local partners and global partners. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you this is cool. You ready? Give me a little drum roll. Drum roll. Oh, that's good. That's horrible drum roll. But anyways, $150,000 actually came in. This is because of your sacrifice. That's internally and externally. People who still believe in the mission and the vision and the values of Eastown. Thank you so much for your generosity.
In fact, we just saw Ruben Miracle, our Hope Water partner in Kenya, at the beginning of this service. And we're purchasing 3 motorcycles for their ministry, for the pastors that go out to the little communities all over.
Start churches.
And start churches.
Those little vehicles that cost $2,500 will actually have impact on thousands of people. Yeah. Will change the course of generation after generation. Yeah. It's so small, but it's so big. It's amazing. Yeah. Hey, if you haven't began your generosity journey, maybe your 2023 should look different. Go to eastown.church/give and begin your generosity journey today. Mm-hmm. Hey, God bless you, and we will see you next week.
See you next week.